Dr. Lalith Chandrakantha.
Okay.
You're welcome to Sri Lankan Literary Society meeting.
Okay, thank you.
And our liaisons go back to our medical school days, Lalith. So I can still remember. I hope you will bear with me for bringing some stuff probably which is not really relevant. But I can still remember your pet name used by all of us. We used to call you Makara. Do you remember why you were called Makara?
I don't actually remember why people called me Makara, but I understand that it probably, well, I think that when looking at it, actually it is probably, it's a very appropriate name in some ways, because it's Makara is, for the other people who are in, who only speak English, Makara is the English word for dragon. So I was called the dragon at the medical school. And I think the dragon is, one is it's a mythical character, just like me. And the second one is actually he's always, the blow fire. And I'm usually well known to start fights, arguments, start cause problems wherever I go. And that's my usual way. Is that correct or what?
Well, I think from my memory, what happened was those days in the Sri Lankan SLBC, there was a serial drama, SLBC drama called Makarage Tanai. Yes. And then in the Bloemfontein hostel, because you're quite loud in the hostel, somebody has one day wrote on door Makarage Tanai. And from that day onwards, you became Makara to all of us. But I think
just so I'm the dragons. I'm the dragon from the dragon's den. Yes,
dragon's den, of course. So it really suits you as you think. So from my memory, Lalith, I don't think I have seen you cycling in the medical school days. If you can remember, I had a cycle. But yes, I can't remember you having a cycle.
No, I cycled almost from the. Well, I came to medical school in, and I was very lucky that I got the Bloemfontein hostel within the couple of months of coming to Colombo. And then the first thing that my sister did was to send me my bicycle. So I cycled throughout the medical school. And then in my final year, somebody stole my bicycle. It was stolen from the Blom.
Oh.
And then the person who I said who is one of my friends are here, Susil Lamaheva. So he realized that how distraught I was regarding my loss of bicycle. He actually gave me his bicycle to me to use in the the final year in the medical school. And in fact, I don't know, the Andrade is not here. And I used to cycle to, the Castle Street hospital in the bicycle. And I remember one of the very good incidents. Once, that I did not like gynecologist at all, gynae and obstetric at all. So the Andrade and me decided not to do the third month. So we thought actually that there was a very good consultant there. I can't remember his name now. He was such a good man. We thought actually we'll be able to get his signature without actually doing the appointment. So we went there early in the morning in the bicycle and then got the signature. And we got into the bicycle and cycled back before he said, hey, wait. So I used to cycle everywhere in Colombo by bicycle. Yes.
That's I think that bit has completely gone out of my memory. I didn't think you had a bicycle, but I was proved to be wrong.
That's my first thing my sister did when I came to Colombo was to send my bicycle.
Good. So you're from Ambalangod area, right?
Well, I was my father is from Balapitia, in called Parutada in Balapitia, and my mother is from Sinigama. And so I grew up in I lived mainly I lived in Balapitia, and then due to some unfortunate incidents we come back to my mother's village to Sinigama. So then I grew up in a village from the age of about 12, we came to Sinigama, and then I lived in Sinigama from then onwards. Yes.
Right. Okay. So do you cycle even when you're young age in your village?
Well, actually, the what happened was that I did not have a bicycle till I was about 13, 14 years or so. I did not have a bicycle because I didn't have a bicycle at home. So I was quite late to start cycling with compared to many villages, because the villagers start cycling when they're about 5, 6, 7 years old. And you know, we don't have small bicycles, we don't have children's bicycle. We had a what is called a pull bicycle, half bicycle, bage kali bicycle, right? And but we didn't have any such bicycles. So I was quite late to start cycling, actually. Yes.
Right. Okay. So I don't know what in those days I can remember a band called Roadmaster. I had a rally, and there was another one called Humber, and various different things. But can you guess what's the cost of a bicycle nowadays, Lalit?
What is the
Cost of a bicycle in Sri Lanka nowadays?
Oh, yes. I think it is now cost more than in Sri Lankan rupees. I think it costs more than about 50,000 rupees, so about 100,000, or even yes, at least about 50,000. Yes.
Yeah, I was looking at, because there was a recent initiative about sending some bicycles from Germany to Sri Lanka, and somebody published it in our website as well. So I just checked how much it would cost, the bicycles, and I was so amazed to see, you know, a new bicycle would be about 60,000 onwards.
Yeah.
So you know,
and still I won't call it a bicycle.
oh, yeah. Right. So moving on, we have loads of things about the medical school days, but let's not go into that. But can you remember the day you, me, and another guy decided to be pediatricians? Can you remember what happened?
Yes, I remember that. I remember we had we were at your home, and we had a chat regarding what is the subject that we are going to pursue, and we all three decided at the end, after discussion, that we are going to do pediatrics. And still, when people ask me now why do I decide to do pediatrics, I still tell the same story, that I don't like adults.
Yes, and you are a pediatrician, I'm a pediatrician, and the other guy who is not here.
Chandima, yes.
Oh, Chandima is here.
Okay.
Chandima is here as well. I can see him. Chandima, you want to unmute yourself? Chandima is from Australia, and it would be quite late.
Yeah, I'm here, Ruan.
Oh, good.
Wow.
Thank you very much for coming, Chandima. You want to put your face as well? No? Anyway, doesn't matter. Chandima is in Australia, so three of us, we decided to become pediatricians, and so we did. We are very happy about it. So, moving on, who are you now, Lalith? Just tell everybody what your...
Well, obviously, I became a pediatrician in Sri Lanka. I did my MD in Sri Lanka, and then came here. And then and I then went, I got my MRCP and MSc here, and then went back to Sri Lanka. And then due to my son's situation, because my son, my eldest son, I have two sons, Oshadi and Rajidu. And Oshadi has quite significant learning difficulties. He has a learning disability and so many other problems. So because of that, I had to come back, because I couldn't find a school for him in Sri Lanka. And then I was fortunate to get into the specialist registrar training at the time. And then when I came back, and then I became a consultant pediatrician here in Northampton General Hospital. And then for the last 7 years, I was the clinical director in pediatrics at the hospital. So it's a big hospital with covering both the general pediatric, community pediatrics, clinical genetics, physiotherapy, audiology, everything. And then I decided, I had decided actually more than quite a long time ago that I'm going to retire at 60. So at the end of March, I said, that's it, I'm going to retire. And I retired because I need to pursue my main interest, which is cycling.
Excellent, Lalit. So at this point, I think we got to know who you are. So the stage is open to you. You can now share your PowerPoint and start your discussion.
Okay, can you see? Oh, sorry. What happens? Something. Can you see the presentation or no, or not? No. Okay, wait a minute. Can you see it now?
Yes.
Okay, right. So what did you ask me to do? You asked me to do something here.
There were two boxes when you're, I mean, do you have any videos to share?
No, sorry, I can't see any boxes here now.
No, now it's gone. But before that, but it doesn't matter really as long as you don't have any videos.
Okay. No, I don't have any videos. No,
yeah, that's fine then. You can start with your first slide.
Okay, right. So the question is actually traditionally these presentations that one organized are done by specialists in subjects. And a good example is the last week's presentation by Carven. I must tell you, Carven, it was an excellent presentation, but most of it was beyond my grasp. And so if I were to take into the so what is my reason to actually to present this present one by specialist subject was, I can tell you that so as a clinical director in the hospital few years ago, we had a discussion regarding with our sister hospital, which is a Kettering General Hospital, regarding the merger of the two hospitals. So in an informal discussions, they ask different people to introduce themselves and talk about their area of specialism. So when it comes to me, so they ask me, Lalith, what is your specialty? Before I say a single word, all my colleagues said in unison, cycling. And that's because everybody considers me at work as a cyclist, because they can see that I hardly go anywhere without my bicycle. And this is in Hungary nearly about 10 years ago, in somewhere in Hungary. I was waiting for a bus with my bicycle in the back, and I use my car mainly as a form of transport in the bicycle. So the car is used mainly to transport the bicycle. And I usually do my shopping in the bicycle, and so my main life is about cycling. So because of that, I think I'm reasonably qualified to do a presentation about cycling. And the other people know that I always tell people that there are only 2 seasons. I don't have 4 seasons. I have only 2 seasons. That is, one is good for cycling, another one is you cycle with a bit of care. So you can see that I cycle when the winter is just beginning, and I cycle when the winter is absolutely frozen. So these are pictures from me cycling in Finland during the winter when the outside temperature was -30. And if you had any doubts regarding earlier that this man is actually mad, and now you can see that actually I am mad about cycling. So my colleagues told that my specialist subject is cycling, because whenever they come to see me as a clinical director, I will tell them it's all about cycling. It is like cycling. So whether you have a physical health problem, or we have mental health problems, or you have problems at work, you have problems at life, or whatever it is, my solution is it's like cycling. So when Ruan asked me about whether I would like to talk to this group regarding cycling, I said, well, I think what I would do is, I don't want to talk about the how to choose a bicycle and what are your health benefits of cycling or anything like that, that you can find anywhere. I said, I will talk about to say that whether Sri Lanka can cycle out of its current crisis. So what I'm going to do next, for the next 30 minutes or so, what I'm going to do is actually to share with you something about what does the cycling actually has taught me during the last so many years of cycling. What I'm not going to do is actually, I'm very conscious not to do that, is to gloat about my to go by my cycle traveling. I will only focus on actually what I have learned about from cycling. I send these pictures to Susil, actually, who is my friend in Sri Lanka, my classmate, as well. Couple of months, about 2 months ago, when I was cycling in America, to say that actually I consider cycling is a religion. And I send this picture to say that no matter what happens, you can never prevent a cycling from going where they want to do. If the bridge is closed and if there's a board to say that you can't go, we still go. And this is, you can see, this is in America, and we just got into the middle of the road and asked the people to actually stop the whole road so that we can cross the road. And cycling is a religion, and I say that I'm a touring cyclist, so touring is a cult within that. We have an object of worship, and which is the bicycle. We have our own set of rules, and even a uniform, as you can see that I always wear my lycra. And the people who know, for example, Katarzyna is actually very this thing that I follow my own rules regarding when I'm on the road. I cycle, and we all have an unwritten code, and that unwritten code is the most important one. You will find that when you cycle, just about 10 o'clock in the morning today, I cycle to the shop. Even when I went to cycle to the shop, because I always wear lycra when I go out, the other cyclists will always acknowledge me, and I will acknowledge them as well. Sometimes we just nod the head, or you just say hello like that, or just put a smile. And there is some kind of this is like a religious cult, that you always acknowledge other person, and the other one is that you are always there to help and support. You will find that the other cyclists will never go past the cyclist who is struggling to has a puncture, or whether if a cyclist is pushing the bicycle, other cyclists will always ask them, "Are you okay, mate? Do you need any help?" And that will be done anywhere in the world, at any time at night. You will always help the other person, and because that is what cycling is about. And so what I find is actually is that what I would like to do is to share you something about what the cycling has told me, is that it's about the humanity. Well, as a medical doctor, as a doctor, and especially as a clinical director, I used to say that I was a much more kind and caring person before I became a doctor, and especially before I became a clinical director. And I had enough of things when I had after working for 2-3 months or so, I get really, really annoyed, angry and sad and things like that. In that situation, I find that the best is to cycle, to understand about, to restore my faith in humanity. If you look at this is actually a screenshot from my phone. You can see that this picture was taken in a very remote part of Spain, on the 9th of September 2018 at nearly about at 2050, at about nearly 9 o'clock. This incident is actually a very interesting incident. What happened is that I was cycling the Camino. I was cycling from Bilbao to Santiago, which is about, I think, roughly about 700 kilometers from Bilbao to Santiago. And I came to this small village on that day cycling, and it was a Sunday. I have booked a small room, which was almost like a room above the pub. I checked in there and came out around 6:30 in the evening to go and have something to eat. And Google told me that there is a little restaurant just at the junction. So I walked up to the junction and asked for and looked there, and the restaurant was closed. And by that, on that day, I had already cycled about nearly 90 kilometers, and I'm absolutely tired. And there was restaurant was closed, and it's a very small village. And there's a house next door, and there was lots of there was some these two women were outside, and with these people were outside chatting. And I approached them and asked them, is this restaurant closed? They said, yes, it is closed, because it is this is Spain. This is Sunday evening, and everything is closed. And they said, well, I will go and so I asked them, what's happening to you? And I was not in my bicycle. I was just, because I just walked from that place to the restaurant. And I told them that I'm cycling the Camino. And today I cycled about 90 kilometers, and I'm absolutely dead tired, and I'm hungry. I'm looking for some food. They said, well, this is not our home. We actually come here to look, see our mother. And let me go and ask my mother whether what is happening, whether the restaurant will open. So they came back, and the mother said, no, restaurant is closed. They won't open after 7 o'clock. I looked at them and said, where is the next restaurant? They said, it's about another 20 kilometers from here. And then their mother didn't speak English, and the mother told this girl spoke English, and they told the other woman to say that, well, I think perhaps what we can do is to invite him for dinner to us. So they actually gave me a dinner. So we had a very good time. There's a small girl here, and you know, I'm a pediatrician. I can play with any child anywhere. That's my job. I'm paid to do that. And I played with these small children there, and had a good chat with all the other people. And I had a dinner. And so at the end of the dinner, I took this photograph to show you that actually but you know, this has happened to me not just once. It has happened to me so many times before. And actually the important thing is it is not just on this particular day, at this particular moment, I was not even in the bicycle. But it has happened to me in Croatia. I have been to Croatia, and then I came to this place, and I asked them what is happening. And they said, you know what, I think the best is actually for you to just to come and sit down with us and have the meal. And it has happened to me in Serbia, in Portugal, in so many other countries. And when I cycled with other people, say in Russia or in America, they tell me the same story. And actually what I realized is that I initially thought that this was actually because I'm a cyclist, because they can see that this man is, you know what, you know, he's he doesn't go. But then I realized actually that is not just about the cycling. It's about what I learned when I was at home in the village, is that if you don't cause problem to other people, they don't cause problem to you. And if you are good to them, they will be good to you. And I have so much of faith in humanity. And once you start cycling, I have no problem approaching people or asking them or like that. And at the same time, actually, other thing what I realized is actually with cycling is that all happy families are alike. All unhappy families are unhappy in their own way. And that's saying from Anna Karenina, And this family, if you look at this, what we were talking about, this Spanish family, these are the people who have come to see their their parents over the weekend. And it's a Catholic country. And they are just enjoying their time. They are quite happy to share their meal with the the other people, and with their strangers, and they are truly genuinely good humans. And this is a family that I met when I was cycling in Russia. And you can see that actually I went to see them for this is the the girl that who invited me to their home to, their party. And these are just a family who is just enjoying their time. And actually, most interesting one is, I have been put that photograph here. They actually, what I really saw that actually how they are, how they share their looking after children among the families, and the all happy families are alike. And I remember actually once when I was cycling in the Czech Republic, I came to this a very remote area in Czech Republic. I couldn't actually find the place. I really struggled to find the place as well. Finally, I found the place and came there. And then again, the same thing. They said there are no restaurants in this village. They said no problem. You can share the dinner with us. So they gave me the dinner. And what I found is actually this woman is absolutely proud about her family. And she took me out and her husband to show me their vineyard and their farm. And they gave me I told them I don't drink, I'm a teetotaler. So they gave me some, the juice to drink. And and on the following day morning, actually they actually helped me to wash the bicycle. And even wash and pump air and do everything, and then let me go my way. And what I find is actually these are just basically whatever the religion or whatever the nationality you are, these are actually very nice people. It always restores my faith in the humanity. Another one about cycling is that it may let me get to know the world. The most important one here is actually get to, at the beginning, if you are not if you just cycle a couple of miles, or if you just cycle for few kilometers, or if you go to the shop from your bicycle or something like that, you get to know the world. You get to know your neighborhood. It is I find that actually, for example, if somebody, when I move to my new house here, if someone, if a delivery driver come and stop here and ask me or something like, now of course they have, even if they get lost, even with the sat nav, they come and ask me about where is such and such a place. I can always tell them where in my neighborhood, because I cycle. And I know which kind of what are these roads and where do they, what kind of people who live there. And I noticed the entire neighborhood, and the neighbors know me as well, to say that this is the man who comes in a bicycle. Another one is actually you get to know the rest of the world as well. For example, you get to know about other religions. You get to know about the world. And I must talk to you about Brexit. And I remember actually when I was cycling when I was doing the Camino, when I was cycling the Camino, I went to this church. It's an old church. You can see there is a Reverend Father standing here, and that shows the size of the church as well. And there was a question regarding those at that in the Caminos, whether you will actually be able to find a place to sleep at night. It's a big problem once you are actually coming towards the end of the day, because there are lots of pilgrimages. There are a lot of pilgrims. So I approached this the way that I went to the church. And the Reverend Father came to me and said, "Do you want to come and see the inside?" I said, "Yes, that would be nice." He asked me, "Would you like to, do you need accommodation tonight?" I said, "No, I don't need the accommodation tonight, because I have already booked my accommodation." But then he took me into their office and gave me their seal to say that I came there during my Camino. And what I realized was actually, if I were to, if I actually respect them, if I were to, I'm a Buddhist, and whatever the religion, And when I follow the same thing that I learned from my days in the village, you go to the way that you behave in a temple, you respect the other people's religion, and you treat with respect, and then they will treat you in the same way wherever you are. And it's a good way to learn about, I mean, this is actually inside the the Santiago, that main cathedral. On that day there were so many other work being done, and so I sat down on the floor with all the other pilgrims, and then obviously they participated in the mass. So one of the things that actually that I have no restrictions or no problems of going to a church, participating in the mass, and then I've done it in Russia, I've done it in various other countries, I've done it obviously in Poland, and to learn about other religions and to participate in them. And I met this group of people through Kasia as Kasha as well here. This is a group of Jewish people, and I participated in this festival, in the Jewish festival called Temporary Home, or called Making a Sukkah. And actually, we had a good laugh on that day to say that I'm a Jew, a Catholic, and a Buddhist built a sukkah for the religious ceremony. And the very interesting thing on that day was actually, after we built this sukkah, and we were very happy about that, we were very proud that we built this sukkah for the one, and then came a rabbi from Warsaw. He came and completely changed the whole thing, because he said we should not use inorganic material here. And then we just said, okay, just let the rabbi do whatever he wants, and we will just carry on with our things. And at the end of the festival, I think it lasted about 3 days or so. I remember sitting down with a group of people, and sitting down with the Jewish people, and breaking bread, and putting your hands like that, and then the dancing, and then this you bang on the table, and then they say their prayers when banging on the table, and it was an absolutely wonderful experience to know about the other religion. And I learned about actually the people who were here, and they still talk with me occasionally from time to time on the WhatsApp. I learned actually about that some of the fundamental concepts in Judaism in Judaism is not very different to Buddhism, and I realized actually they are. I must say that I was a little bit ashamed to see that they were actually much better Buddhists than me. And these are the other things what I realized when we search cycling is actually about how different people looks at the war. I will come to that in later. Another most important thing that I want to talk about in what I learned from the cycling is about learning about other people, is about the border. And this photo, I don't have actually picture of this building in mind. So this is my fridge magnet. This is I was cycling from Austria to from Vienna, in Austria to Prague, which is about 6 to 700 kilometers. I usually, I get leave only for 2 weeks in. I usually take about 10 days leave to cycle. Every 6 weeks or so I take a 10 days and then go and cycle. So my trips are usually roughly around 750 kilometers or so. And so I was cycling from Vienna to Prague. And when I was planning this tour, I looked at some websites, and I asked on the Doctor's Net website about people, about what is there anything that I should know about this route. And they told me that number one is actually because you are cycling in the summer, there will be very interesting thunderstorms. And one of the persons said, you must not miss the opportunity to visit this small museum in the place called Valtis. It's absolutely in the middle of nowhere, and there are nothing you can see for next 10-15 kilometers. And there's this small building. And when you go there, what you find is that this was an old border post, which has now been converted to a small museum, and it is run by a group of especially the teenagers or people who are less than about 25 years old, and they take you on the tour and show you about what happened in that border guard. And at the end of that museum, after spending about an hour of that museum, I came to the conclusion that actually, you know what, this was my first tour of actually crossing the borders in the bicycle. I have cycled before in Portugal and in other places, but I have not actually crossed the border in a bicycle in this way. I crossed the border from Germany to the Netherlands, but it was just not a border. I just realized that I passed the border because I got a message in my telephone to say that welcome to Netherlands. And I realized actually this young person told me that we all are Europeans, and there was the border guard, there was a border here, and that border is not there now thanks to European Union. And which I actually later realized the other one is actually when I cycled from Budapest to Belgrade. So you get down from the Budapest airport and then cycle all the way you pass through the Hungary, and then you pass to the Croatia. So you first go to the Hungary, and then you pass the border from Hungary to Croatia, and then you come to Serbia. Actually, the difference in the two crossings is absolutely amazing, because you can see that how Croatia is a part of the EU. So I had no problem. I just you can see that there is no border, there is no border guards, nothing at all. You just go because it is just part of the EU. And I just put my bicycle and take a photograph to tell my son to say that I have now reached Croatia. But then when you come to Serbia, now Serbia is not part of the European Union. And so because of that, you have to now go to the border control. Then you realize actually there is this border what that boys were telling me about the Valtis, I actually had a first-hand experience of what it is like. And then actually, I really experienced the problem in Finland. So, because we are islanders from Sri Lanka, I love crossing borders because we haven't seen borders, because it's a small island, because we didn't grow up in Europe or in other place. So when I was cycling in Finland, this was, I think this was in the end of January, we came to this border, which is the Russian border. So beyond this place is Russia, and this side is Finland, and that's a real border. So what I did was, me being a little bit silly, I crossed the border and asked one of my friends to take a photograph. Before I went to this place, I have been warned by other people, Lalith, please don't mess with Belarus and Russians. It is not to be. But I thought, well, you know what? This is in the middle of winter. What will happen here? I just want to say that I was in Russia and take a photograph. You know what? It didn't take even time to take a photograph. The entire border force arrived. So all our group was held up, and all our group was held up. They said, "Oh gosh, Lalith, we knew that when you came here, when we saw you, you are going to cause some problems, and now you have." And we were held up for nearly half an hour in this minus 30 temperature, and till they actually go through all our passports and everything. And finally, because it was Finland, we have not crossed the no man area. And finally, I was able to even take a photograph with the border guard, and he let me go. And that actually showed me what would have happened if there was actually what has happened at the time in the Europe when there were borders. And I cycled there is a famous cycle route called cycling the Berlin Wall, the entire Berlin Wall that you can, what used to be the Berlin Wall, now there's a cycle path. And when you cycle through the Berlin Wall, they teach you at crossing every few kilometers, you get these borders, and then to say that actually what happened in that place during that. Some people who have been shot, some young children who had tried to cross the border and have been shot. There are so many stories like that. And then actually, so I went to, when I was cycling in Berlin, and I came to this day. On that day, there was a big celebration of the European Union and singing Ode to Joy. And I joined with them to say that this is actually the birthplace of modern Europe. And I had a couple of my friends who are very, the people who were supporting the Labour Party at the time. I told them actually, I would like to bring Jeremy Corbyn and take him on the bicycle to see this to cycle this along the Berlin Wall. If you had ever cycled if you had ever cycled across the Europe, you don't need to cycle across the cycle along the Berlin Wall, and you will realize that European Union is not the economic union. European, I just like, when during the Brexit, our biggest problem was that we were talking more about the economic advantage and disadvantage of the European Union. It is not. It's a political union. And I told my friends and family here to say that I can tell you, whatever you negotiate with the European Union will never ever agree to abolish the free movement of people. European Union is based on the fundamental principles of there are no borders. And in order to understand that, you need to cycle across Europe to understand, cycle on the border to see that actually that's what it is. Another interesting one is you can hardly find a person who supports the European Union as a whole. They don't like European Union. But the problem is actually, but they still like the concept of EU. They don't like the politics of that, but they like the political union of EU. So they will never ever abolish the free movement of people. And that's the most important one lesson that I learned. And actually, there are no borders, there are no wars. Next one, actually, the other one is what I specifically want to talk a little bit about cycling in Russia. The most important thing that I learned from cycling in Russia is actually Russia is 3 countries. That's a very important message people must understand, is that Russia is not one country. There's a Moscow, which is usually what people consider as Russia is Moscow. That's what you call as when you're in Sri Lanka, when we talk about Russia, what we talk about is Moscow, or otherwise St. Petersburg, which is a little bit more European because it was built on the European model because they wanted to be European at the time. That's what I heard. But then there is the rest of Russia. It's a very important to understand that Russia is 3 countries: Moscow, St. Petersburg, and then the rest of Russia. Rest of Russia is very, very rural. It still lives in, oh my goodness. I just have some pictures for you here, taken from in rural. This was in 2016, okay? And you can see what this man is carrying here. And he's carrying his sack here, the one for the goats and the cows, right? And we found this woman, This is 2000. This is about 2015 or something like that, 2016 or so. And this is Russia, right? There is no. This is the when people talk to us about advancement in Russia. Russia went to the one people say that actually you haven't seen Russia. And the one of the most important one is that once I went to a very small village in Russian in Russia, which is we crossed the the Volga River, and in this shop they still use an abacus. Yes, they still use an abacus to tell you how much you have to pay them, and this is Russia. And I took this picture, we went through some areas, and it reminded me the Hunuwate Katav, the chalk circle, and that Hunuwate Katav and the chalk circle, and this, the Valpalame Gita, because they were, only thing that they did not have was this dress, but the rest is just that it is exactly still the same. And in so much so that actually what is important is that I asked from these people about they are still like this here. They said, Lalith, you know what? I had read quite close the Don Nadia Nisansalava Galabasi when I was when I was in Sri Lanka in Sinhalese. I recently started reading that book again. Read that book again. What is interesting is actually in that book says that it is actually only after a few weeks that the Lenin has the October Revolution, people came to know that there had been a revolution in St. Petersburg. And Vladimir told me, Lalith, that is absolutely true. And in this part of Russia, he said, my grandparents used to live here. And he said, actually, it's about a week later, somebody came and knocked on their door and said, you know what? Last night, it says that last week, Lenin has taken over the power and Tsar is gone. And they didn't know about that. But nearly about a week or two, people did not know that there was a revolution at St. Petersburg. And then I must talk to you a few minutes about the cycling in USA. And I have cycled in USA now. So this is important. This one actually, what is really interesting is actually how I went to cycle in USA. I was just going to looking at how to cycle in USA, and I saw on local. I saw in the cycle adventure website about that they are looking for a companion to cycle, looking for a person to cycle because one of them has dropped out, and I said yes, I will join them because, as I said at the beginning, because the cycling has showed me that I can always trust another cyclist. And I went and joined them, and I cycled with them Route 66. But the hospital only gave me 3 weeks leave, so I had to come back after cycling cycling for 3 weeks. I was only able to do half of the Route 66, and I came here and I came back. And what happened was that since then, most of these people are still friends with me. And they invited me to cycle with them again, and I went and cycled, did what is called, looking at civil areas. And then after I retired, because I have now not, time is not an issue, I went there in June, and I spent in end of June, I spent nearly 5 weeks in America cycling with them. And now when I went to New York, I stayed in their homes, and when I went to Michigan, I stayed in their homes, and I cycled with them, and they became good friends. And one of the most important lessons that I learned from cycling in America is that actually I have cycled more than 3,000 kilometers in USA. It's spent more than 3 months altogether, but I hardly cycled in a black neighborhood. Same is true for what they call white trash neighborhood. I mean, I remember once when I was cycling there during Route 66, my friend came and told me, "Hey doc," they call me doc. I'll tell you the reason there a little bit later. They call me, "Hey doc, have a look at it. Don't say a word, just have a look at it. We are now going through white trash." And the other interesting one is actually, I am still, even in America, that I was the only colored person in the entire cycling group. And it's the same when I cycled in Northampton or in area. I think it is changed in London. But the very interesting one is actually, I don't know why the black ethnic minorities do not cycle. I still don't know why. I have my own theories. And cycling in America is great. And what I just put it because, you can see the real rural America and, small town America. And I just put it here to say that, one of the biggest problem of cycling in America is food. There's hardly anything to eat. And then you understand actually why America is it's a unique place. And we say that actually even the Americans laugh about this one here. Do you really want to tell people that the road ends here? Country roads ends at the water. But do you think I would be actually be riding into the water because the road is not there? Another one is the hunting now in season, wear bright clothes. And I think I sent this picture to Susil as well. Susil asked me to say that you will be seen better or what's happening here. Most important I learned from cycling is actually the planning, and it's relevant to Sri Lanka, is actually planning and organization. You can't cycle unless you plan your day. And it is true for any bigger organizations and the contingency planning. And I show this one to say that this my friend here with the Susil. He's the one who gave me the bicycle when I was in the medical school. So I returned the favor as well, and I took a bicycle to Sri Lanka last time I went there, and I told Susil that you can now cycle to work as well. And then I met this guy where I was cycling in America, said the Rooks environmentally conscious architects. And he carry his everything in this bicycle and go around and he's doing. And what you find is actually, if you are commuting to work, that it requires actually, if you are commuting to work with in cycling, you have to plan. You can't just dump everything into your car and drive. You need to see whether it is going to rain on that day, whether it is going to, whether you have site visits or whether I have another meeting to go. And this requires lots of planning. And this is very important to Sri Lankans, because in Sri Lanka it is very people usually think about where to go only after getting into the car. They get into the car and then think about, I think it is good to go on this way, and then they go. And they said, "Oh, wait, you just turn here because I want to go to my uncle's house there. I think they said they have come back here. I need to go and see them." You can't do that in cycling. You have to plan your journey. And actually, one of the important, that is why when I was talking with my friends here in my work colleagues, I tell them that it is like cycling. You can't do anything unless you actually plan. If Sri Lankans were to start cycling, the most important lesson that they learned is actually they have to plan. And they have to plan and organize things. If they were to even to commute for 1 kilometer to work, they must plan. And the second one I want to see, that the other most important thing that I learned from cycling is actually you must live within your means. And you must understand what you need. And because if you want it, you must carry it. There is no other way. And then you have only that bag that you have, the 2 pannier bags or 1 pannier bag, and you have to live within your means. And that is the most important that you learn, is actually to live within your means. And my life has changed since I started cycling in that way. I have become actually a my life has almost gone to bare minimum, because I will only use what I need. And you learn to live. And sometimes when I tell people, when people ask me about what to do, and I said, well, I'm a touring cyclist. I can live with nothing. I will only carry what I need. And people will learn to, the cycling will make them to understand that actually, you know what, you don't need this much of this. And even about the clothes, for example, now when I commute to work, what I usually do is I take take 5 white shirts on a Monday morning and leave at work, and couple of chinos, and my one pair of shoes and few pairs of socks. I leave at work. I go to work in the morning, and then take and then wear a white shirt and put a tie, and that is it. And then you realize, actually, after some time, you realize you really don't need more than five white shirts in your life. If you have, and then I'm always wearing a crispy white, the shirt in the morning without any problem. And then you realize, actually, you know what? You don't need anything more. You don't need more clothes. You only need 5 shirts and a couple of chinos and a couple of pair of shoes and a few pairs of socks, and that's all you need for work. You don't need a whole. Then you don't need to open a wardrobe in the morning and then think about, what am I going to wear to work today? You don't need that. You learn that from cycling, and then you learn to learn to live within your means. And other observations that I have made is actually the humanity in Cuba, and I think I talked about that when I was talking with on the Plain Tea group about the most important thing that I learned about Cuba is actually that the Che Guevara has given them is that the humanity. Another one is the religion and politicians are prominent features in developing countries. This is very obvious in Central America when you cycle in Nicaragua or the Panama or other countries, and you learned about corruptions in Russia. Another important thing about the cycling infrastructure is that this is Washington D.C. This is the airport Washington Airport. And I took this picture I sent it to Susil and Katarzyna and my son to say that I have now arrived in USA. So I usually take my bicycle and then I unpack my bicycle and start unpacking my bike. And you can see there's another guy who is also unpacking his bike here. And then you put in the Washington D.C. you have all the buses can carry up to 2 or 3 bicycles, and I just get into the bike and you just go. In America, you can cycle from in most of the places you can cycle from airport to airport. And this is what is called this is a lift in Serbia, that you can transport the bicycle from the top of this one up to the river path. And when you cross the border when you cross from the Rostov to to go to Denmark, and this is with all the other trucks, there is a place for bicycle as well, and you have a place for bicycle. And even in America, you get special places with the other people can go as well. There are places where you can have a coffee bike, so you can have a coffee and they will fix the bikes at the same time if you want. And in the ferries everywhere that you can take a bicycle. And you can see that cycling infrastructure. This is in Czech Republic, and I put this to say that choose your own route. And this was taken just at the Polish border, in the Polish and Czech border. And you can see that all the bicycle routes are signposted. And a very interesting one that I realized, actually, in Europe and USA, you can cycle from airport to airport. And I cycle usually from airport to airport in Europe. And in Asia, the best cycling infrastructure in Japan and South Korea. Japan, I read somewhere that about 25% of the old journeys in Tokyo is completed using a bicycle. And in South Korea is very big on cycling. And you can see that they send their cars to us, to Sri Lanka, and they cycle. And in Central America, which is the coast in Central and South America, Costa Rica and Uruguay has the best cycling structures because they are actually much better developed than the rest of the Central and South America. And especially in Costa Rica, you can actually, so Costa Rica is very good for cycling infrastructure. And the other thing what I learned about cycling is actually what I tell is life is like cycling. And this is the place called Malaupa, which is the border between between Poland and Czech Republic. I cycled there with my son. It's about 1,000 kilometers high. We decided that finally, after discussions on the previous day evening, we decided, yes, we are going to climb this hill. And I told my son, life is like cycling. I'm now an old man, and you can cycle and get to the top. What matters to me is actually I will get to the top. It may take a bit longer for me. And actually, as you get older, it's a great way to keep up with your children, because then you learn about because as you get older, the children's change, and you don't really get a chance to spend time with them. This is my son Rajidu, and we still cycle, and we actually was cycling in Poland just about 3 weeks ago. So we cycled in Poland. And there's a bike for everyone. So this is Oshadi, and then sometimes we try to take him on a three-wheeler, which was not very successful. So he now comes for running with me. And another thing, actually, cycling creates safer roads because the journeys are planned, and people learn to share the roads, and the cyclists know where are the dangers, and they actually make better drivers. And there are problems which are unique to Sri Lanka. The menace of three-wheelers, the best solution is cycling. If people start making their journeys by bicycle, that's the best solution. I'm conscious about the time. And the important thing to understand is actually cycling is not just for fuel poverty. That's a very, very important to understand to Sri Lanka. Actually, when we are taking bicycle to Sri Lanka, to say that there's so much wrong about this photograph. Cycling is not just because you are cycle, not because you can't find a car. That's completely wrong. Cycling is a life choice, and this is a Dutch Prime Minister. After he won the second term, he went to the palace for the sworn-in ceremony by his bicycle. And there was no media, but this is because the Dutch Prime Minister usually he cycles every day in his life, and that's a very important to understand, is actually that the cycling is not for poor poverty. Cycling is actually a life choice. It's a very important to understand. Actually, I cycle not because I can't afford a car. Then you have missed the point. And this is Bush. And Bush is a very keen cyclist, and he is not standing up here just for the photo shoot. Because when I was cycling in the USA, the Bush's the FBI agent who used to work with Bush cycled with us, and he told me so many stories about George Bush cycling. And he's a keen cyclist, and sometimes he will join the local clubs and cycle with them. And so finally, what the cycle does is cycling promotes and creates a society which cares for its people and the environment. And cycle makes you aware of your neighbors. Cycling makes you aware of the world. And it teaches you to plan and organize things. And the most importantly, cycle teaches you to live within your means. And therefore, it's a pathway to a successful country. And that is why I think that Sri Lanka can cycle out of the crisis if they start cycling, but not for full poverty, but because but cycling as a right choice. Thank you. That's it, Truan.
Thank you very much, Lalith. I am not quite sure whether you were reading all the comments, and there were a few comments worth rereading. The last comment, especially, which is from one of your colleagues. Lalith, I joined the meeting expecting a different presentation, but I am really glad that I joined the session. It was a great lecture about humanity and how to manage one's life for the benefit of the whole world. I thoroughly enjoyed it, Lalith. Thank you very much. And exactly, I resonate the same words again. But I think when we were discussing the content, I specifically said don't talk about health issues, which you didn't want to talk about anyway. So let's open up for any questions. So now this is the time when everybody could show up your faces and unmute yourself and ask any questions. Let's see whether there are any hands going up. Gallery, I'll put to the gallery view. I don't see any hands. So let me start with one of my questions. Lalith, have you ever tried to cycle in Sri Lanka?
Obviously, as we started to say that I used to cycle in Sri Lanka everywhere. I used to
More
cycle.
recently, I mean.
No, it's practically impossible to cycle. I mean, you said about cycling. I mean, I live my home now is in the. I mean, I live in the. When I go to Sri Lanka, I have a house in Madivela, and from Madivela to go to 5 kilometer run in the Parliament run is only about 1 kilometer from my home to the place is only 1 kilometer. It's practically impossible to walk that 1 kilometer. You can't even walk. And actually, the last time when I was in my village, and I told my son, let's go for a run in the morning. And we started running. And after about half a kilometer, my son and we both decided this is not safe. This is a village in Sri Lanka. And we said, actually, this is not safe to run here. Let's go home. And it is absolutely in Colombo and even in my village. I mean, I have cycled in the Pan American Highway, and I cycle everywhere. I am little bit reluctant to cycle in Sri Lanka. It's a very sad situation.
Before I go to Sati, I was intrigued by you when you said you joined a group of cyclists to do the Route 66. So my question was that you are going on Route 66, but you have to come back to the airport you have started. How did you do that? Because sudden decision, wasn't it?
Sorry, say it again.
So basically you said you were invited to join a group of cyclists to do the Route 66.
Yes.
Right? So I believe you have, let's say you got out from, say, New York, and you were going down on Route 66, but you had to go back once again. How did you do that? You did a train or something? Or?
Oh, yes. Because we started, that photograph was at the beginning of the cycle route that is on Chicago. So Route 66 start from Chicago and then go up to the California, the Los and is one. So I cycled up to about Michigan, that Missouri, that place, and I crossed the Missouri River, and from there I took a bus back to Chicago and then came back. Yes.
Okay. Sati.
Thank you. Thanks, Rowan. And thank you very much, Lalith. It was a very interesting presentation. Thank you for that once again. This is just perhaps a controversial question. There have been a lot of promotional activities by respective governments in the UK, particularly around London, encouraging cycling. But I have come across, and I'm sure you too have read in the newspapers, a number of deaths. Therefore, maybe I'm biased and you too will be biased in the opposite direction. What do you think about cycling in London? I find it very difficult to cycle in London, and I'm not a very confident cyclist, but I do cycle along country lanes. But I will never, ever cycle in London, being aware of the dangers, particularly from heavy goods vehicles. What do you think?
I understand, Sati. I think put it this way: if I were living in London, I would probably cycle. But I take your point that if my son were to live in London, I don't want him to cycle in London. It's not very safe. It's not very safe sometimes. But I think it's actually it's about planning. It's about choosing your route, and then cycling, and then using sometimes the different routes to get. I mean, for example, even today, I went shopping in the morning, and I make sure that actually some of the it was only about 5 kilometers, and I will actually deliberately avoid some routes because these are on a Sunday morning. That part is very busy. So in the same way, it is dangerous. But on the other hand, actually, people say that actually you are more likely to you can have same amount of accidents even when you are in a car. So, but it's still the cycling is one of the safest form of transport. I do understand your point. Yes, unless you are very confident, you won't be you don't want to cycle. No.
I have a suggestion, Sati. Move outside London. Anyway, Kirti, you have raised your hand. Go ahead.
Right. Lalith, thank you very much indeed for that excellent presentation. Now, I'm afraid to say I'm not a true cyclist. I do have a cycle, but I rarely use it. And having listened to your presentation, I feel ashamed. I should be using it more often. Anyway, coming back to my question, in Sri Lanka, some of the issues you raised, is that because to make it really sort of useful for Sri Lanka, do we need a change of mindset in Sri Lankans? Do we need to introduce a new set of values? Because although Sri Lanka is nominally a Buddhist country, I think the values we have developed over the last, I don't know, 20, 30, 40 years seems to be not in line with what one would expect. What do you think?
Well, it's a very difficult situation, and I think all what I said was actually everything that we talk about, knowing your neighborhood, respecting other people, and the humanity and planning and organization and everything is completely gone. So because of that, if we can introduce cycling to Sri Lanka, it will be very, very useful. But my point is actually it is wrong to introduce cycling to Sri Lanka, to tell the Sri Lankans you must cycle because you can't afford the car. Cycling should be a life choice to say that you must cycle because cycling is good for you and for the country, not because you can't afford the car. Because the other important thing about cycling, what I did not tell earlier, was actually the cycling cycling actually bring you down to earth. Say, for example, now when I go to work, and I will put my white shirt and a tie and sometimes a jacket, and after 5 o'clock, after whatever the time when I finish work, I will take that off and wear my lycra. And the moment I wear my lycra and then get into the bicycle, I go back to earth. It's a great leveler. And even if the doctors were to cycle to work, and they will suddenly realize, you know what, actually, I'm just a normal person. I don't need to shout at people. I don't need to be like this. I'm just another person here. And that's my view. It's very difficult to introduce to. Personally, I think it's a lost cause. I'm sorry.
Thank you very much for the answer. Thank you.
And probably I can add to it. Just recently somebody published on our WhatsApp group a paper cutting or paper article about an agency in Kollupiti somewhere who has inviting people to reach the Buddhahood if they pay a certain amount of money. So if we actually promote this as bicycle kirimeng sansare kota karaganna puluwan hari monari kiyala, I think there would be lots of people going behind that. Anyway, Pavan, your turn.
I just wanted to comment that I came back to Sri Lanka in 2005 from the USA. I didn't buy a car and I started commuting with a bicycle at that time. And despite the dangers, I didn't go very far, but I did go from Mount Lavinia, where I was living, to Kolpiti by bicycle. And it was enjoyable, except given after about 5 years, all the cycle sheds that were there in Mount Lavinia or the Hivala all closed down. So then it was impossible to actually run, have a bicycle, because I would have had to take the bicycle if I had a patch or something and I didn't know how to do it myself, about 3 kilometers or 4 kilometers to get it repaired. And then I sort of gave it up. But I think now with the petrol crisis, there are more people cycling. There are cycle shops coming up, but the prices have gone through the roof. As Ruan said, the bicycle price is about 100,000. And if you want automate a sort of motorized bicycle with an electric motor on it, it costs about 3.5 lakhs. And hopefully there'll be some sort of cycling coming back to the country. There are tourists coming back to the country from coming with their cycles into Sri Lanka now, because they know that transport is difficult. But I had an Indian tourist who came and visited me, and he said that within 2 weeks his cycle was stolen. So that is also a problem if you own a cycle in Sri Lanka. I just wanted to update on the current situation out here for cycling. Thank you.
Oh, thank you, Kaun. It's actually very encouraging to hear that you managed to cycle in 2005 for 5 years, and that's very. I think what happens is that the moment that we go back to Sri Lanka, we will find it very. Roads conditions are not very. I mean, for example, I don't drive in Sri Lanka anymore. I can't think about driving in Sri Lanka, and so.
Nor do I. I don't drive either.
So it's a very sad situation. I can neither drive nor cycle in Sri Lanka, and no can I walk, because the people I'm confined to I don't know, and it's but maybe actually if I'm in Sri Lanka and I start cycling, and I think more and more people cycle, the more and more people will start to realize actually the cycling is then they will start to respect the cyclist.
When we were in school, I mean, all of us went to Royal thing in a bicycle, right? But now I don't think any of the students are cycling to school, right? It was everybody used to cycle. They actually, I think in Royal College, they closed down the cycle shed. There was a fair amount of cyclists. So I think the whole environment has to change to be conducive for cycling, not as a sort of a profit, this thing, but as a necessity and good for the country.
Any more questions? So until somebody else raised the hand, I have a question. Have you actually cycled in any Asian countries? You mentioned about Japan and South Korea, but you haven't been. You are muted, Lalith.
Sorry, I was planning to cycle in Korea or Japan, and then came the pandemic. I was thinking of cycling this year, as because the best time to cycle in Korea or Japan is in April or May during the sakura, that season. And unfortunately, because they still Japan is not still fully open for tourists, because you need to go with the group and then you still need to sign and everything. And even in Korea, you still need to do a testing, right? but I'm very hopeful that by next year it will be, I should be, but even if they don't change it, I'm going to cycle next year anyway, because otherwise, I'm getting old and I need to cycle. I think Johan sent me a message to say that they actually has a cycling group. It will be very interesting to hear from him.
Johan? Unmute.
Hi. Yes, well, I'm part of a WhatsApp group called the Cyclists, which was created recently. And basically, it's to encourage cycling. And I actually shared this meeting invitation with them as well. I've been cycling here for the last 28 years, and same bicycle. There's a BMX. It's a Kenstar mountain bike. And at the time it was bought, it was 14,000. I'm not even sure how much it would be now. But the thing is, I agree, it is dangerous. It's over the, last 28 years, I can see that cycling is just dangerous on the roads, and you have these heavy vehicles and just overtaking you. It just feels like a ship going past, like tippers and containers and all that. And I don't really cycle at night anymore, so it's only during the day. And but yes, I think there needs to be more cycling lanes and more infrastructure in place. And as Dr. Carmen mentioned, cycling repair shops, and those are kind of shutting down. But there seems to be a bit of a resurgence with more people using bikes now. So that's a positive sign. But and again, the thefts, there are, like, just the house behind me, 2 bicycles were stolen just about 3 days ago. A cycle 2 houses away was stolen. So many thefts. Cycles are being stolen. So even if it's locked properly, they just cut it and they can kind of take it away. And so even when I park and lock it, I make sure that it's like I can see it. And even if I shop at the supermarket, it's at a place where it's kind of fairly visible, because it's just not safe anymore, because the thefts have gone up, because I guess there's a high demand for cycles since imports are restricted at the moment. So yeah, it's interesting, but I really hope that cycling kind of takes off, especially in these times.
Couple of things, Johan, actually, both Johan and Carmen, because you both like cycling. Number one is actually easy for me to say. It's about bicycle being stolen, right? It's a problem everywhere in the world, right? Wherever you cycle, it's a big problem in cycling. Is the people in America told me the very interesting stories about how the bicycles are stolen in America. And they told me I will not go into those details, but actually people who know me very well will know that actually I never leave my cycle away. Obviously being a cyclist, I've been mad about cycling. I have so many bicycles, right? I have, I have about 5, 6, 7, 8 bicycles. I lost count about how many bicycles I have. And because in my view, actually, every person must have at least 3 bicycles. One road bike and one, the hybrid bike, and like that. Anyway, so what I say is actually I never leave my expensive bicycle out of my sight, right? Even when I go to a shop, and you can see that when I go, even when I'm touring, I will only have something to eat or drink in a restaurant where I can actually keep my bicycle with me. Right? I never leave my bicycle out of my sight, especially if it is, for example, my most recent bicycle is about, I'm mad about bicycle. Okay, so I don't, actually my bicycle is more expensive than my car, right? So because of that, I don't actually leave my bicycle out of my sight, out of my way anyway, right? That's me. And the second one is actually about repairing bicycles. That the bicycle is one of the most easiest thing to. I now hardly take a bicycle to a repair shop, right? I think what is at the same time, while you are actually promoting the cycling within your group, Johan, what you can do is actually the repairing a puncture and changing the cables. So bicycle is one of the simplest machine, and which is the most efficient and the simplest machine that man has ever made. And because when I started cycling, what I realized is that because I'll be anywhere in any part of the remote part of the world, and I must be able to repair my bicycle. So I repair my bicycle, changing the brake pads, so changing the repairing a puncture or something like that. It's very simple. It's not a problem at all. I mean, I have timed it because if I'm going to an airport if I'm going to an airport or to catch the train or something like that, I have time that I will be able to repair a puncture within maximum of 15 minutes, right? To take the tube out and then put a new tube out, or put a new tube out and then pump it and go within 15 minutes. And I can pack and unpack the bicycle in 10-15 minutes, because otherwise it will be difficult to cycle from place to place. And I'm not a very good mechanic. I'm absolutely hopeless man with regard to mechanical things, but even I can do that. Okay, so my suggestion is actually for all, there are very good YouTube videos. You don't need anything more. Actually, I went on a course. I went on a 5-day course on how to build a bicycle, right? So I don't go to a cycle repair shop anymore. I build my own bicycles now. I buy parts and just build it and then do it in my own, because it is the simplest thing to do in life. You only need just simple that the screwdriver, the Allen keys. You only need a set of Allen keys to repair a bicycle. So what I suggest to you, Johan, is actually you can talk to. I'm happy to talk with you afterwards to learn about the basic cycle mechanics. Thank you.
We got Susil Lamaheva.
Thank you.
Susil,
Yes, am I audible to you?
you are audible, but that's better. Yeah, we can see you as well.
Okay. Hi, Lalith. Yeah, I actually wanted to say a word about this, because Lalith and myself are from the same school from about grade 4 onwards until the A levels. So we were even in the class we were together. Yeah, that's about Lalith and me. We share same jokes, and that's about the school days. I wanted to tell you about the cycling in Jaffna is still happening, but Dr. Sati mentioned about it, because I took some students to Jaffna. I generally take annually some students to Jaffna, and I have seen a lot of school children, girls and boys do cycling there in Jaffna. So in Sri Lanka, it's still going on in Jaffna and actually in Batticaloa. And I think Lalith may remember in those days, I go to market in the bicycle and I leave the bicycle in the market and come by bus. And then my father used to have the bicycle. Then I go back in the bus to the market and bring the bicycle in the evening. It's still there. So those time, then it was not stolen. That is I wanted to say. Now even without, if you leave the bicycle for 2 minutes, you might lose it. Tamalangoda, one of my friends, Lalith knows very well, called Himananda, he told me somebody has changed the bicycle from the wheel to the lamppost. The guy had gone to the shop and came back to find only the wheel is there. Rest of the bicycle is taken away. So this is how Sri Lanka moves on. And then I want to mention you now, there are some people now when they come, so when they design their houses now, actually now they ask for a place for the bicycles. I think that's a very good move. Some people wanted, we need the place to keep our 2 bicycles. And actually I had the client from USA. They brought 3 bicycles, so I had to design the house with a place to keep the bicycles. Now it has become during last 2 years, I think, the many people who want to do change their spaces, change their modifications to the houses, or renovations and so on, and they ask for this a place for a bicycle. I think that is a very good move. And I must tell Lalith also, thank you very much. You can see what he brought me there, the headgear right at the back there. So I still use the bicycle. So those are the 3 points that I wanted to tell you about cycling in Jaffna. And then now people are conscious about cycling in this country, but it's very hectic to ride, with the hot sun and dust and the carbon monoxide on the road. And much, Lalith, I just wanted to mention those things, but it's progressing. It's progressing. People are buying bicycles. They are getting bicycles imported, and there I have seen clubs and all of them. Lalith knows, and it has become now when you think about the house, now they think about a place for the bicycle. It's a very good thing.
Yeah, so thank you very much for that, Susil. Is there anything, Lalith, you want to say to Susil? I think he
yes,
just...
I think what Susil told about this cycling in Jaffna is a very important point. Is that what you find is that I mean, I remember very well that when I was cycling in Switzerland, and I found that when the schools closes at 3 o'clock or whatever the time the school closed, the entire road is full of cyclists. And you can see small children. You can see that they are being children. They put hands over the other people, and then they are cycling, and they are all over the road with no care about the traffic rules or anything like that. And all the cars just wait till the children go away. And I had a chat with those people in the local people, and they said, what is Lalith is that this could be my son, this could be my daughter, and this could be my grandchildren, or these are our children. And once you realize actually that the more and more people cycle, and the people become more careful about the cyclist, and then they start to respect cyclists, because this could be me. This could be my son. This could be one of us. So actually, the more people, so one of the reasons in Jaffna, maybe actually the cycling is more safer, because the more people cycle and the more people recognize actually these are our children. So the more you cycle, the better it is.
Because I don't see any hands, I have a question, Lalith. So we have in our minds that cycling is mainly to move from one place to the other. But in my childhood, and in your childhood as well, we had a whole load of occupations based entirely on bicycles. So for example, you can remember the ice cream car, who has this, ice cream box in the back of the cycle. Then we had the parankara, who brings all the bread and the rolls and buns and everything. And I can still remember another situation when I was quite young, actually. There was a whole network. In those days, there was a belief that people has to eat fresh food, warm food. So I can remember in the houses, the servants or parents or whoever make a fresh meal, and there was this cyclist who come and take it to Colombo in a cycle, in cycles, and then there was a distribution network in all the Colombo areas. And I think from my memory, the Bicycle Hora, the film was based on a similar story. So it looks like all those occupations have now disappeared because they are being done through motorcycles or three-wheelers. So do you think it's a good move forward if we can reintroduce those occupations once again in Sri Lanka, at least to have more cyclists on the road and be aware? Or you think it's too dangerous now with all these three-wheelers? It's not going to be a very wise move.
Actually, was obviously I remember Ruwan that very well. Well, now instead of that bicycle, palm card, now we have chumpang in that way. But the interesting one is actually this is doing a comeback in England. There are now builders who are actually going by bicycle. There are so many other tradesmen now who are now using the bicycles, and for example, you said about the delivering the hot food, perhaps actually Deliveroo and Uber Eats and other things are actually part of that. So actually it is making a comeback. And sometimes actually the best way to tell the Sri Lankans to start to cycle is to tell them that this is what the Westerners do. Then they will start cycling, right? And rather than they telling them actually, because they think that they still feel that cycling is not up to them. It's not. It is for poor people. It's not for us, kind of thing. Anyway, good.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. If you want to introduce cycling, you should tell them that that's the new norm in Europe, and people who are cycling are probably upper middle class or something or the other, and then everybody will get onto that. Is that a comment? Sarab Gamlat. Just read his comment. Sorry. Sarab, you want to just open up and say what you want to say?
No, Sarat, I think he's leaving.
He's leaving, I think. Yeah.
I think it's now nearly 4 o'clock. I think, yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Anybody else waiting to ask a question, or shall we just conclude the session? Right. So if not, let me.
Just Carven.
Yes. Carven, go ahead.
I just want to comment that I had the original receipt of what my father bought this bicycle. The bicycle I was used in 2005. It was bought in 1954 for 236 rupees, which was a very princely sum, I think, at that time for a bicycle. You work it out into current day things, the 100,000 rupees for a bicycle is actually not too much, because 236 rupees in 1954 could buy a lot more than what you can buy with 100,000 rupees today. So I think we have to understand that prices have gone up because of inflation. But unfortunately, this bicycle has been completely rusted away by the Mount Lavinia salt breeze, and I have to throw it away one of these days after 70 years. Thank you.
And Sati is making a comment that your bike must be a very sophisticated one with a fridge attached to it as well to be that expensive.
Yeah, I actually amazed. It was a standard Raleigh 200 sports bicycle bought in 1954 December for 236 rupees. I mean, I have the receipt, original receipt, which I still have with me. And that must have been a lot of money at that time.
Yeah, obviously. Right. So, Lalith, I knew you are going to give us a very stimulating lecture, but I didn't even dream that it's going to be this interesting, even for the non-cyclist or even for the budding cyclist. It's a very interesting and stimulating talk, and we all learned a lot from it. And this is the time when we have to thank you. So everybody unmute yourself and put on your videos as well, so that we could thank Lalith. And thank you very much, Lalith, for your wonderful lecture. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
That concludes our SLLS meeting for today. Thank you. Have a good evening.